As set 15 draws to a close, we wanted to think about it, go over it, and rate it on a scale of A to F, and maybe even Z tier. Why even bother to do that? Well, TFT players, as the creatures we are, will always say this set is so bad. Wah, I hate this interaction. Wah, I'm still gonna play 1,000 games this set. Wah, fuck TFT. Wah, Rammus pissing XDD. Wah. Okay, but yeah, that's not very constructive as of a conversation. So I just wanted to use this video as a space to have a constructive conversation about what was good, what was bad about this set, what could be done better, and give a feedback. Set 15 was KO Coliseum. It was an anime themed set that went from July to November, and it introduced TPC, and its main mechanic was Power Up, a mechanic that gave on 1-3 and 3-6 a fruit that granted an upgrade to a unit. Do you want to introduce yourself, Nun?
I'm 149cmTFT. People call me Nun. I'm a NA Challenger player. I'm a coach as well, and you might know me as the person who wrote the Google Doc that crashed out in the middle of the set.
And yeah, I'm Remy. We're making this together because I wanted to get a good friend to talk about his own opinion as well. I'm also a TPC official co-streamer for Riot. Yeah, I'm not on Riot payroll though, so I'm a set 14 and 15 EU West Challenger. Okay, so let's get started with the first thing that we want to talk about: mechanics. Fruits it was just a bit destined to fail, right? Do you want to talk about it, Nun?
Yeah, in my opinion, why fruits were destined to fail, I mentioned this in the Google Doc that I wrote as well. It's just that it's a much more complicated version of anomalies from set 13, and anomalies was first of all, they were generic and everyone had the same pool, and also we only got one anomaly per game at a certain stage. Fruits, on the other hand, we had two fruits which were both movable, and we had a way larger pool where each unit had their own different setup pool as well. So this complex system was just destined to fail, as it is impossible to balance with the given manpower that Riot has. And also the fact that each unit has different pools creates issues where it's very easy to just miss your fruit, and missing your fruit, just missing the optimized fruit is just very bad for the game, and it makes the players feel very bad. And another issue is that Riot introduced scaling fruits, which created instances where a reroll comp was simply just like a lot worse without the best scaling fruit, which created a lot of power disparity between different players and how much they hit their fruit on 2-1.
For example, like Max Arcana on like a Katarina, or a Max Vitality on like an early Malphite, etc.
Yeah, and over 9k on kill is just like a -1 AVP at some point in this game. And the biggest issue I think about fruits, like barring the balancing, was the APM issue that it created. Everyone in TPC, or I mean even just Worlds this weekend, where we saw when they put Crystal in, they put it in on 3-5, not even 3-6. It like in a ladder, a lot of players put it on 3-6 so they can roll down on 4-7 and 5-1. Some people put the Crystal Gambit in on 3-5. First of all, obviously to guarantee the 250 cash out, but also for the extra turn of APM that they can save, which is just insane because a roll down that takes 3 turns is just way beyond what a player should be able to do. So I think the APM issue that Fruits introduced to find the perfect fruit to roll your turn down, to fix your items, etc., was just too much of an overload for a lot of players. Some of the players with like slower APM that I know just simply just lost a full life on 4-2 or 4-1 because of this. It's very, very difficult.
Furthermore, tailoring made it even worse because, well, you had to, for example, bench units so that some fruits, the unclickable ones, don't show up, and your odds become even better. So
yeah,
we rate it as a collective as an F, as a mechanic. Don't worry, we don't rate everything as an F. It's perfectly fine. It's just we think that this mechanic was just a failure.
Yeah, for sure.
In terms of unit design, TFT made this new shader. It was reminiscent of anime, right? So in one of the positive is that the mecha line, they made the entire, not the entire, but like half of the units don't have a skin, a league equivalent skin. And they made it from scratch, and those looked rather cool. For example, the Razor Blade, Karma. Yeah.
Yeah.
But the negatives is that the unit themselves were rather boring. Yeah, the 5 costs were less cool than in set 14. I mean, let's just remember the set 14 5 costs. We had like Garen, Urgot, Zac, Renekton. Those were really, really cool. What's your favorite units from this set?
It's probably like Viego, because Stretchy Arms Viego was kind of cool. Blink Attack Viego was pretty cool.
In my case, it was like, it's also Blink Attack unit. It was Volley. Yeah. Yeah, Blink Attack Fishbone's Volley was a demon.
Yeah.
Okay, and so this is a solid B tier in rating. It was a solidly beautiful set.
And I'm here to talk about the game design of the set. I'll split it into 4 parts where I'll talk about the augments, the artifacts, and the flexibility of the set.
And I'll talk about the roles rework afterwards. Disclaimer, we are just like passionate TFT players trying to give our feedback based on our feel for the game. We are not game designers, so like of course there might be some things that might be misattributed to game design. So we're not trying to be cocky here. Sorry, we might be, but yeah.
Yeah. So first of all, augments. This has actually been an issue since a few sets ago. But first of all, obviously, 2-1 augments are, especially gold augments, are way too diluted. And due to the fact that interests are in this game, econ augments on 2-1 are just a lot better than combat and item augments in a normal portal, unless you're a Scuttle portal, right? And we can see this in the case of time skip. Just stat-wise, a silver augment is worth less than half of a gold augment. And AFK gives you 20 gold, while time skip gives you 28 XP, where gold is more valuable than XP. So how come time skip is actually valued at like a B tier augment when AFK is also valued at somewhere around that power level? It's because the gold augment pool, there's not a lot of econ augment on 2-1, and time skip is the only like one of the few viable options. And just from this case alone, you can see that players really want gold econ augments on 2-1, and I think there's also a lot of useless augments on 2-1, like the trait augments, etc. Blood Rage, Piercing Sight. And I feel like a really good way to solve this is to like just to thin the pool down on 2-1, or even give us categories on 2-1, like in set 14, where you're guaranteed an econ augment, you're guaranteed a combat augment, you're guaranteed a item augment. Because missing econ on 2-1 feels really bad right now. And then also, another issue at the start of the set was that prismatic 4-2 augments were really it was only either econ or item augments, and there was no like generic combat. But Riot fixed that by giving us Giant and Mighty and Tiny but Deadly, which is a really big addition actually, because now 4-2 feels a lot less like high rolly. And trait augments showing at wanted times. I've had many times where I have like a 3 trait of like a frontline trait, for example, like 3 heavyweight on 4-2, and somehow I just get offered Ring the Bell, and it's just it never feels good when you lose a augment slot on 4-2 when you play the game, right? And then finally, augment balancing. Obviously, it's very difficult, but right now there are definitely just some insta skips in the game right now. For example, Survivor and Big Friend. I define these augments as the augments where in no case would you ever pick it in a competitive setting, which I think these augments should just be either deleted or reworked. Now I'll talk about artifacts. Artifacts actually went from being really bad at the start of the set, like design-wise, to actually being decent at this point in time of the game. At the start of the set, artifacts, I watched a video on by Data TFT where they called artifacts a kind of hero augment. So you don't actually need a unit for the artifact, but sometimes you just 2-1, you pop Portable Forge, and you get like Flicker Blade, and you just play towards Kog'Maw, even though you don't have a single Flicker Blade holder or a single Kog'Maw. And I think that's just very terrible game design. And like, Flicker Blade is a more generic artifact, but in other cases, where for example, I've seen people in regionals where when Luden's Tempest was a thing, they just a 2-1 pop Forge into Luden's, and then they just force Ahri with no copies of Ahri, no rods, and then they just win the game because it was so broken. So I feel like we should design. I mean, obviously, I'm not part of Riot, but I think Riot should design artifacts in a way such that they're more generic and could be picked for every comp. For example, like Flicker Blade, Banamazane, Deathfire Grasp, and Shimmer Skill items for the reasons listed here. Because artifacts can show up at any time in the game from a gold orb. I mean, not from a gold orb anymore, I guess.
Like, units should not be gated on whether or not you get that artifact.
Yeah,
they should be playable without artifacts. Sure, they can be weaker versions of themselves, but they don't have, like, they shouldn't need to have the artifact to be playable.
Yeah. So, like, the biggest offender of the artifacts I was talking about are like the ones that change how a unit functions. For example, Blind and Jewel Mouse gives them basically infinite mana late game, later stages of the fight, and then Luden's Ahri makes her like a one-tap machine. Snipers on any melee unit makes them a ranged unit, which they're not balanced around, so obviously they're gonna be broken. So the bottom line is that we should make artifacts more generic, and that so they don't change how a unit functions. And by making them more generic, it fixes the fact that when you pop artifact MO42, or if you get an orb drop artifact, or from like treasure hunt or something, you pop the artifact and you can click at least 2 or 3 of those options for your comp instead of having 5 unclickable options, which I'm sure all of us has an experience with. And the fact that sometimes you click the items before the unit, in my opinion, it's just pretty bad game design. And finally, for me, I want to talk about the flexibility of this set. I think the flexibility at the start of the set was pretty bad, where the powers are focused a lot on the verticals. For example, 6 Duelist, 8 Star Guardian, 8 Soul Fighter. I think this issue originates from the origins being all very selfish. The origins, there's basically no splash origin except for Mech, and Mech is only splashed because Karma and Lucian are both what is it called? Sorcerers.
Sorcerers, yep.
So you basically get the Mech for free if you just play like any Mech. And the other ones, for example, Soul Fighter, like, only buff Soul Fighters, Star Guardian only buff Star Guardians, and yeah, etc. So you can't really splash traits. So at the start of the set, it just revolves around playing like a vertical trait, yeah. For example, 8 Star Guardian with a Kobuko, or 8 Soul Fighter, and I'm pretty sure this is Shen. But
7BA.
Yeah, 7BA Katarina, and then the Yumi board, which is Prodigies. But Prodigies is interesting because no matter if you have 2 Prodigy or 5 Prodigy, it gives the rest of your team 1 mana gen only. So you're incentivized to play all the Prodigy units, because playing more Prodigy when carrying another unit literally does nothing for your carry. So, but afterwards they actually nerfed the verticals and buffed the lower ends of the verticals, so it resulted in some actually pretty flexible play. For example, Volibear and Jinx, or like Varus and Jinx, like the Star Guardian nerfing by nerfing the Zaya bonus was I thought that was a really good change. And also nerfing 8 Soul, buffing 6 Soul, that made it so that like Soul Fighter is actually pretty flexible now, where you can either play Forja, you can play Luchador, you can play Shen, you can play Yone, actually, you can play like TF. So I thought the end of set was a lot more flexible than the starter set, which I think was a good change at the end.
Okay, and finally, we'd like to talk about the rules rework, which was, they changed, so Riot changed how unit targeting was, and also how units would generate mana. So what I want to get to is that it was originally bad. It changed frontline itemization because it gave healing, so items such as BT became useless. Hodge became less of a priority. We were sitting here with QSS, i.e. Edge of Night Yone, for example, right? Or where he should be wanting to like build a healing item. Same for like any of the hero augments. You're just sitting here not building any healing on Garen, not on who else, on Vi, etc. Also, we'd see stuff like Nashor's QSS Akali, which is
It's like an optimization that like a bronze player would do. Like, if you saw this in any other set, you thought this was a bronze player, but it's actually Trubis, and it's actually a lot worse if you don't have these exact items.
But I mean, likewise, like there's also all the Gwynsu frontliners that popped up, right? But yeah, and nowadays though it's pretty good because, well, the healing got removed, it got changed to attack speed, and yeah. I mean, the only problem, I guess, is like it made items such as Silvermere a bit weaker because, well, there's no mana gen anymore. But that's like a good trade-off, I'd say. I'd say all in all, Rules Rework was quite a bit of a success. Yeah, and then, but one thing I wanted to talk about that I'm actually quite passionate about is that drain tanks. Drain tanks are like one of the most, sure, like it was deemed to be a toxic like type of champion, right? Like think the Yones, the set 10 Yones, set 10 Riven, like set 13 Violets of the world were deemed kind of toxic, so they wanted to move away from it. But at the same time, they Riot also wanted to move away from assassins, right? So, but if you take away drain tanks, then you have to go back into assassins. And then what happens here? Like so now for a melee carry to be viable, you either have to have overtuned damage, or you're just locked into having it be a secondary or a tertiary carry, right? Which is, I don't think is a good thing. TFT with only backliners would be too boring, at least in my opinion. So I think that's like one of the small, not problems, but like something I fear for the direction that TFT is going towards. If that's like something they want to, like drain tanks is like one thing they want to move away from. Yeah, at least for my own personal enjoyment, because melee carries are always fun to play. It fulfills a power fantasy for a lot of these champions that you'll see, for example, in Summoner's Rift as well, a 1v9 Riven, right? That's the same thing that you want to see in TFT. And so we rated it B overall in terms of game design. Do you want to go for it?
And I want to talk about the balancing of the set, which I want to talk in two sections, which was the nerfs that I think were misguided, and also fruits once again. So first of all, the misguided nerfs. I feel like I don't know if Riot does this. I hope Riot does this, but I feel like they should have a way to calculate the percentage nerf to a unit with the changes that they're doing. I've seen them talk about it in the patch notes where they say it's like a XXX% nerf to this unit and whatnot. So I feel like they do this, but I'm just very confused. For example, for the Ashe rework, some guy on Reddit did the calculations by himself, and he found out it was like a really like humongous nerf to the Ashe, but they still ended up shipping it. And I mean, with no surprises, Ashe became absolutely unplayable with like average placement of like 5 with Ashe 2. So I'm surprised they shipped it. Either they thought it was fine, or they didn't do the calculations, which were both, I think,
problematic.
Which it was problematic for sure, because it just removed the comp from the game, and it was like removed shop slots from the game if you see an Ashe. And also for Yuumi, there was this patch where Sorks and Yuumi were both very playable, but not oppressive at all. I think they were A tier comps at best. But Yumi ended up getting a 4-way nerf. It was like Leona nerf, Yumi nerf, Prodigy nerf, and Cassante nerf. So, and it just pushed Yumi to the point where she was just not playable again. So I'm really not sure what the balancing team was doing with these, but I feel like they should be more careful with their nerfs in the future. I know they have this 7-day period where they can't do any more changes before the patch, but they should. I don't know how they should overcome this, but I feel like this is a pretty big issue, especially with these two instances, right? It just created two comps that were absolutely unplayable, made units unclickable, and it's just a bad experience for the players overall. Yeah. And then for the fruits, obviously I talked about this before, but fruits launched with way too many options, and it's just absolutely, like, it's literally impossible to balance all these fruits with a given manpower and given resources that they have, especially with the 7-day changes thing, because a lot of the comps with the broken fruits, with optimized fruits, were discovered like later into the patch, like the 2-week period. They were discovered in the second half of the 2-week period, so it's hard for Riot to change them in the upcoming patch, which results in like a 3-week domination era. For example, as we've seen with GP, he was not nerfed until like later, and then after he was nerfed, he was still very strong, and then he got nerfed again, and then GP finally disappeared from the face of the earth. Thank God. And for example, there's still like a lot of roots in the game right now that are pretty oppressive. The biggest offender, in my opinion, is just Gather Force. Like, no matter who you are, Gather Force is just BIS on whoever you can get your hands on it. Like, for example, Jinx, obviously, the biggest user of Gather Force. Lee Sin, Gather Force is considered to be BIS if you have healing items. GP, I mean, no one plays GP, but if you play GP, you need Gather Force. If you don't have Gather Force, I'm pretty sure the comp average is a 6. So, like, even Kai'Sa. Like, the fact that Kai'Sa had... Gather Force is a good fruit on Kai'Sa. Kai'Sa's passive gives her raw AD. Gather Force gives her raw AD. Those two things just means that Gather Force should not be a good fruit on Kai'Sa. But the fact that Gather Force is so overtuned, making it a good fruit on Kai'Sa is just pretty bad balancing, in my opinion. Especially after so many patches of Gather Force being dominant. And then obviously, there are ones that they nerfed already. Mech Pilot, I got it. Removed from the face of the earth. Best defense, basically removed from the face of the earth. It's 100% now. It would just be 170%. So it's like they nerfed it by like 50% basically. Stretchy arms, obviously, just literally removed. Over 9k, they made the tailoring worse, I think, and then they buffed it, and then they nerfed it again, and now it's in a pretty good spot, I'd say. And then a lot more lesser offenders, obviously. So I think, like, obviously, not to just go back onto the set mechanic, but like balancing the set was a lot worse because of the fruits, the fruit mechanic, and obviously that's very hard to balance. So
it just created metas.
yeah.
Like we saw, like it went from the GP meta into the. I mean, all of the first 3 patches had like rather toxic metas, other than the brief period where we had the Karma Yumi meta. So
yeah.
And for that, we're giving it a rating of F in terms of balancing, which is, it's rough, but it is what it is. Okay, next we're going to talk about the bugs and the communication around it and the community reception around the set. So, okay, so one of the most important things, okay, bugs are always going to be in TFT, right? And that's perfectly fine. But there was like a bit too many egregious ones. For example, there was like the client bug, which is for a day during Box Bootcamp, there was a black screen bug where you loaded up in a game and you just flipped it on what placement you were going to get because you literally could not connect to the game. Is that okay? No, I wouldn't say. I'd say that's not okay. That's just fundamentally breaks the game. There's also the patch flex bug, which was the patch after, or like the after patch, because there was like a ABCDEFG patch on the first patch, on the first, yeah.
Yeah, I also want to say that I'm kind of surprised, like genuinely surprised that these made it to live because I mean obviously for QA, I hope people were playing the game during QA. So I'm not sure how the process went down, but I'm surprised they didn't realize that they weren't in a game when they quality checked, or and also that they weren't in a different patch during quality check. But like yeah, like it's like I feel like the QA process should be honestly I think it should be more transparent, and also it should be more rigorous because I like these bugs making it to live is like I think it is a very unacceptable. Like that's even
Like,
possible.
yeah, I mean, okay, a unit being bugged, etc. is like, okay, it's sure, it's bad, but it's it's bad, right? But it's understandable. Like, this game is very hard. It's a very hard game, but for you to load up in a game and have to check at the start of the game, you have to check traits to see which patch you are playing on and to see what type of comps you're going to be playing. That's like that's just fundamentally different from what TFT should be. Yeah. Otherwise, of course, there was like bugged interactions such as like the Lulu, or for example, Lulu carousel bug. There's also the shops where no units would spawn because yeah, like Lulu for some reason wouldn't show up, and then they didn't fill back up the slots, so you're just sitting here with a 4 units shop. Stuff like that. Yeah, when I was talking about Lulu carousel bug, it's that Lulu either didn't show up on the carousel or it showed up, but it was in another realm, so you actually couldn't even pick it up. Yeah. And then there was Callista Day, which was patched up in a single day, where you had Callista, which would it would do the over damage on. Wait, what is it called again?
It was like she crit, but after she killed someone, the crit applied again. It directed itself to another unit, so it just nuked the entire board for some reason.
So, but yeah, QA has been caught lacking way too much this set, which is what we were talking about as well in the last section. And another problem is that when Riot communicated that they fixed something, but it's not fixed in the game, this was done like way too many times. Like it was done over and over and over again. For example, the mech, what is it called? The prismatic mech.
I'll be the head.
Yeah, I'll be the head. Saying when they said that when you show I'll be the head, you can get the other two offered. Like you're guaranteed the other 2 offered. That did not happen, right? Etc. Like the rest of the things, and then yeah, also the fact that Mordog left the social media space, that left a big void that was not filled up, and at least community-wise, how people felt was that nothing was being communicated to us, and that you just had to you just had to either watch a streamer who tells you what the bug is, or you have friends that can tell you what the bugs are. So it's like either study group or like watching the fact that you have infinite time to watch streamers. That's gated by that, which is just not a good look for the game, right? Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, for that we rate bugs as a Z tier. Okay. The next section, it's more positive. It's more on a positive note. The Esports and TPC was overall rather a positive thing, like a very positive thing throughout the sets. We had more games to watch because TPC gave a more stable tier 1 circuit for pro players. There was a lot of Riot investment into the viewing experience through co-streams. GG Tech was great. Best tournament, there's a best, like this set had the best tourney administration yet, except for NA Trials 2. So yeah, we'll get to the negatives, which is that NA Trials 2, we hope this goes down in history as the worst competitive format ever. Do you want to talk about it? Yeah.
I do have some opinions on the NA Trials 2.
Go for it.
The fact that, I mean, the biggest issue is that you have different blocks where you can queue it up, Like personally, I didn't play it, but like I was watching my friends play, and then like it was correct for you to FF, so you won't get queued up into like game 3 and 4, so you can get into the next block of
Because
games.
you have to average higher than a 2.
You have to average at 1.8
Mm.
to get into Cup, which is just ridiculous in my opinion.
Let's say you were like, even if you're the best player in the world, if you're served a doom spot and you salvage the game and go fifth, then you're screwed. You just have to sack the next few games so that you actually like you have a chance to queue it up. Otherwise, otherwise you're just screwed and you have to wait the next day, right? And you have that many less chances to make it in.
Yeah, and also even the best players like Wage Iverson, Robin Songs, they queued up on NA ladder against challengers and grandmasters. They can average on 1.8 in like 100 games, like throughout like a 6-game average. A 6-game average of 1.8 happens very rarely. So basically, what I'm trying to say is, to average a 1.8, you need variance on your side a lot. You need to basically high roll your lobbies, you need to high roll your units, you need to high roll your like game plan, and then like at the end you might still average a 2 and not make it.
For example, if you have,
and I think this is
if you have 7 emerald players, then it's way easier to do, right? Like
also you can just load up in a lobby with 6 people, so that would make it a lot easier too.
Yeah, because some people did not. I mean, since anyone like without rank restriction could sign up, some people just don't have like anything to lose in terms of like competitive integrity, and so they could just leave the tourney midway through. And I mean, there's nothing that can be done. Like, sure, you're gonna boot them out for like for next tourney, but does that hurt them? No, not really, because they have no skin in the competitive circuit, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So all this harms is just the people who actually really want to make it to Cup, as since this is obviously a lot harder for them to make it in, and it's easier for the Diamond Dannies to actually just high roll 6 games and get in with a really low AVP, and they just end up getting day 1 in Cup anyways, because they're against better players that they should not be facing, in my opinion. Yeah.
Also, yeah, some other stuff that were egregious is that there were a lot of egregious bugs and during TPC. I mean, this happens every single set, right? But I thought that in our set 15 wrapped, we probably should talk about it. For example, there was a 5-1 remake because the game just literally deleted itself from Tournament Realm. And T-Lides was going to go top 2 at the very least. And then, yeah, he went 6th that game, I think, which led to him being cut by 1 point, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then there's also McMena's regional run, which is got cut very short by the fact that he literally could not log in. Yeah.
Yeah, that's not good.
But yeah, but overall, it's still a very positive esports set. Like very positive. Like TPC is great. I can't say this enough. TPC is great. The viewing experience was great for this set. Although even the Star Guardian Cup, which was literally everyone playing Star Guardian, even then, it was actually fun to watch. So for that, we're giving it an A. Yeah. So yeah, in conclusion, we think that set 15 was an ambitious set that was executed badly due to a variety of issues, and for that, we're grading it a E. Well, thank you guys for watching, and hope that this made you guys think of it. But yeah, I mean, TFT at its worst is still a very good game. So let's look forward to set 16. I am so hyped to see the whole unlockable thingies. And yeah, I'll see you guys soon. Bye.